Are you actually nerfing your own champ when you use these skins? Hello Summoners, and welcome to another ProGuides video. My name is Dan, and today we'll be talking about 15 skins that are actually pay to lose? Most skins are there for aesthetic purposes, with their splash art making for a sick profile background and loading screen, and nice model and particle effects in-game. Everyone has their own taste, be it pretty, cool, cute, or downright edgy. But some skins do more than just add visual appeal. Some skins can give you more than you asked for, and sometimes that's not a good thing. But before we get into that, today's question of the day is, what champ do you think needs a skin the most, and what should it be? Personally, I think Ornn has been way too popular of a pick to not have a new skin yet, so I'm hoping there will be one for him pretty soon. And one last thing, be sure to visit us at ProGuides.com. We have the best roster of coaches, top-tier live classes from instructors like Mike Young and Zyrene, and courses covering a variety of roles and champs from your favorite pro players like Doublelift. We also have a brand new VOD review feature, and we're super excited for you guys to try it out. The way it works is you send in a replay file, and the coach sends you back a fully reviewed VOD. It's a super convenient option that saves you some time, so give it a try. Now, without further ado, let's get started. To start things off, the Yordle you love to hate, TEEMO can be a great champ for tilting opponents, but if you play him with the Omega Squad skin, you may end up tilting yourself. His auto attacks are clunky and can even make CSing harder in lane. And when you're playing a lane bully who's supposed to build a lead early in the game, missing uncontested farm hurts. On top of that, his Q is extremely noticeable, both visually and audibly, so champs with spell shields and Fiora with her parry have a better indicator for when to block it. So as cool as his legendary skin is, opt for one of the cheaper options for this Yordle. Speaking of Yordles, VEIGAR has been a pretty good pick in the bot lane for much of this year, providing a lot of utility along with hyper-scaling carry potential. But just like his captain, if you're playing him with his Omega Squad skin, you're handicapping yourself. In this case, VEIGAR's W hitbox, which is normally just a vague area around the indicator, becomes perfectly outlined, showing your enemies exactly where not to stand if they want to avoid damage. In team fights, Kog'Maw's ult can be a silent killer, with its thin indicator being easy to miss. And while his new Arcanist skin is certainly adorable, it comes at a high cost. His ult goes from hard to notice to hard to miss. The indicator becomes a bright arcane blue, making it extremely apparent to even the most unalert of enemies that they are being bombarded. Koggers gets two skins on the list, and while the stream isn't as bright and apparent as his Arcanist skin, when rolling with Battlecast, the trade-off is that every time you ult, there's a marker on the ground that shows exactly where the artillery will land, letting opponents know precisely which direction to evade the attack in. The Project skin line is one of the more popular ones, but for Zed, his skin puts him at a slight disadvantage. When using ult, the skin gives a specific animation that practically counts down the ending for the opponent, with a special animation right before it pops, allowing them to use cooldowns to mitigate the damage perfectly. Instead, use his Galaxy Slayer skin, which we previously covered in our video covering the 15 skins that buff your champ. If you missed that one, check it out after this one, and be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss content like this ever again. Being a legendary, Mecha Zero's Scion has some sick voice lines and spell effects that give him an unstable Decepticon feel. And while it can be awesome, what isn't awesome is the advantage your opponent gets when you use your W. While the effect looks nice, the color change indicating when you can recast your W to explode for damage lets your lane opponent know exactly when to back off to avoid you blowing up in their face. Counterplay is good, but giving your opponent a signal to back off, not so much. The most important thing about trading with URGOT is fighting around your shotgun knee passive. And when you're using the High Noon skin, the indicator for which guns are up and down is a bright orange for both you and your opponent, letting them know which side of you is safe and which will blast them to smithereens. This level of readability makes duels against him a lot easier for those that know how to play around it but aren't too good at recognizing when to do so. Kate is a pretty simple marksman, with her strength being her high range and tactical use of her traps over more flashy mechanics. So sneaking her traps in during a team fight is what separates the really good Kate players from the run-of-the-mill types. However, when using her Arcade and Pulsefire skins, these traps are much more apparent, with extremely glowy particle effects. Unlike the other entries on the list, Project Vayne doesn't just suffer from an obvious particle effect. Instead, what makes her condemned so obvious is that the whole champ herself does a very extra backflip, letting enemies know what's going on before the bolt is even shot out. Sure, it looks cool, but it gives the enemy plenty of time to counter it however they can. A lot of YORICK's damage in extended fights can be largely attributed to his pets, and while the Maiden does the majority of this damage, his ghouls are no joke either, and thanks to their gray, dull color scheme, they can easily be ignored in a fight until they've already pumped out a decent amount of damage. With his Arclight skin, however, ghouls are a bright golden color and stick out like a bunch of sore thumbs. This makes them easy to discern, making it easy to target YORICK's pets in a chaotic team fight and cut his damage. Lux's kit may revolve around light, but using her Star Guardian skin makes her a bit too bright. Her Q and E are extremely obvious in fights, and her ult gives a much bigger indicator during charge up, giving opponents enough info to dodge most of her damage. Her Steel Legion and Elementalist skins are her pay-to-win skins, which also showed up in our pay-to-win video. If you didn't already know that, sub to our channel so you don't miss any other great videos like this one. Karthus' Q is the only part of his kit that takes any effort to hit enemies, and even with perfect aim, they are dodgeable with good enough reaction speed. So naturally, you don't want his Qs to be a super bright pink, fiery orange, or any other color that would make them more noticeable. Except that's exactly what happens with Karthus Lightbane and Infernal Karthus, so be sure to opt out of using those skins if you really care about maximizing your odds of winning. Even though it was the first ultimate skin in the game, Pulsefire EZREAL has long been hated by anyone that actually mains ADC and knows what EZREAL should feel like. Though the skin is worth over 3,000 Riot points on release, it was so clunky that it was practically unplayable. Even after a few attempts at touching it up and removing said clunkiness, it has still to this day remained an inferior skin to others that cost well under half the price, just due to the huge difference in how smooth they feel. And that is it for our skins that actually nerf your champion. Be sure to let us know in the comments below which champ you think needs a skin ASAP and what skin it should be. We love seeing what you have to say. Can't wait to see you guys back for our next video, but for now, good luck out on the Rift, and please wash those hands.